Okay, let's go.
That's actually not bad.
How you doing today?
You're gonna go wash your hands first. I'm allowed. Oh, table. It was so close to being your point. And then he got involved. Table 3, go on and add another point. Thank y'all for being so darn quiet. I don't have to ask y'all for nothing. I find myself sitting here staring at, I had to open my voice, raise my voice and everything. What is this? Are you serious? Table 3, go ahead and add another point. Thank y'all for just being so darn quiet and following directions. My goodness. Came straight in, got straight to work. Table 5 was going to get a point. Table 4 is being very quiet. You're right. Table 4, you can add a point. Table 4 was very quiet. I kept waiting for more people to show up at table 4. That's the only reason why they hadn't been getting points, so they can get a point. I was going to give table 5 a point earlier, but Jake didn't have his math workshops out, and then by the time I was ready to get, he got them out. And then by the time he had all that ready, they were talking like the rest of you. And we wonder why your group has no points yet. Interesting. We'll see. Okay, there's not much to go over today. Well, that's not true. We'll wait for Zach to stop dying.
Keep dying, so.
That's what you want. Okay, so for today, we've got to go over these math workshop problems. I have about 6 people in here who did not finish their math workshops, who did not finish their partner pumpkin thing from yesterday, which is fine.
I was doing something to scroll.
You're fine. Why am I talking and I still hear people? That's just plain ugly. Table 4, thank you for being so darn quiet. Add another point. That's just ugly. We're going to go over these math workshops. I still have about 6 people who did not completely pass their Power Pumpkin Partner multi-step, there are a lot of P's, multi-step inequality worksheet from yesterday. You know who you are. You and your partner have to have both passed. So even if you're done and your partner's not done, you still technically haven't passed because you had a partner and you have to help them pass. Jacob, you're going to help your partner who was not here. You're going to tell her what to do? Okay. Yes, dear. Before you go, are you crazy? You are crazy. Table 2.
Subtract the point.
I really was going to say it. You knew I was going to say it. Ugh. I'm going to hold it.
What are they doing?
Yes. What on earth have y'all done in like 2 seconds? Lord Jesus. You haven't yet. I just really want to. I just really want to. Between you and the new one, it's like, who's going to be the smarty one first? Like, who's got the, I don't know. You won't understand my, like, weendingers back. That's probably your old. Okay. Moving on.
Point.
You're not getting points for being dumb. It's under your foot. Table 3, and then y'all went and distracted us all. Lord, help us. What was I saying? We got so off today. 5th period discrete. So yesterday when I walked in the 6th period, I did what I'm about to do to you. Yeah, it's happening right now because I'm still talking and you're still talking too. Everybody take a point away. Then you're in -1. Bless yesterday's heart in 6th period. I had one group that never really got it together. And ironically, they also sit at table 2. Notice the irony. And they ended up on negative points, which means that they ended up hurting their points from the day before. Hadn't had that happen all year, but it happened yesterday. Maybe it'll happen today in discrete, because again, I find myself talking and I'm still talking over you. You've got to be crazy. Yes, you were the one right there. You'd be crazy. You're the one I'm watching. Yes. Obviously, if someone's talking, they're obviously talking to someone else. That's common sense. My God. Can we get it together now? You think we got this?
Yes.
Okay, if the answer is no, you haven't made me mad yet, 'cause I really like 5th that for Discrete. You are on my nerves today. I'm not gonna lie. This period Discrete is like, I'm not gonna jinx it. I probably need to start knocking on wood, but they're probably my favorite Discrete class of all time so far. I would say that, but you're on my nerves a little today already. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. And that's even recorded on YouTube. The sixth period can hear that and get jealous. Not that they watch both videos. Who does that? Please. Let's see. I gotta go over the whole list again because my ADHD is then kicked in because people still be talking. Okay. We're going over these 2 math workshop problems. Well, the last one from number 1 and then number 2. If you didn't finish your power pumpkin from yesterday, even if your partner finished, you both have to have finished to get the point. So you need to make sure that is completed before you work on the coloring activity. The thing for today is the coloring activity, but I need to warn you before you go crazy and start coloring everything. You probably want to check with a friend or check with me before you color anything because it's meant to be tricky. In fact, heck, I can write on here. We've talked a lot about lately that like x less than 2 is the same thing as 2 greater than x. We're just reading backwards. So you've got to be able to identify this might be your answer and they might write it the top way. Or you have the answer and they might write it the bottom way. So the coloring page is tricky because it'll have x less than negative 2, x less than x greater than 2, and then it'll have 2 greater than x, and then it'll have negative 2 greater than x. And you're like, oh my god, they all look exactly alike. So you really have to be confident. My answer is x less than 2. The only one that reads x less than 2 is this third one. So the coloring page is a lot like that. You have to pay very close attention. So let me say that again. Put your hand down, Zach. I'll call you in a second. So we worked some problem. Let me make one up. Hold on. So we had some problem like this. We solved it. We got x less than 2. Great. Good for us. That is the answer. With the coloring page, it has like 4 different answer choices. It might say this one, if you get this, you color purple. If you get this, you color pink. If you get this one, you color blue. If you get this one, you color black. And you're like, oh my god, I have an answer, but it doesn't quite look like any of those. Which one is it closest to? Well, first of all, you know our answer was not negative. So it's not going to be the purple, and it's not going to be the black. So then we're just debating, is it the pink or the blue? Well, you and I had x less than 2. That says x greater than 2. But the blue, if we rewrote that, isn't it technically x less than 2?
Yes.
So they're tricking you on the coloring page, just making sure you can read an inequality either way. So that's why I wrote a comment up there, and I'm going over it here. The coloring page looks easy, but it can be kind of tricky, not in solving the problem, but in deciding which color to color. So Tyler either wants to ask the people around him, hey, are you coloring number 1 purple? Or he wants to ask me for sure, like, hey, Miss Compton, number 1 is purple, right? And then I'll say yes, because I would hate for Tyler to go to his cute little fish and mess it all up because he colored the number 3 bright orange and he was not supposed to. You would like to have the colors correct. If Tyler has the colors correct, when he turns it in, to be honest, I look at his fish. If his fish is colored the right way, I look at his work. If his fish is colored the wrong way, that's when I start staring at his work. And then your next question is going to be, Miss Compton, do I really have to color? I hate coloring. I don't know if you know this, but I tend to give bonus points if you take the time to color things, especially if they're pretty. I know that makes me a true girl that I like things colored and colored pretty, but I do. So I tend to give you a couple bonus points on the assignment. So let's see, if out of 18 points total, I would probably give you a 20 out of 18 if it was colored pretty. So you get 2 bonus points for it, which might be worthwhile since I tend to put things that are taking our class time in that 30% category. Okay, some of us are geniuses. We got it. You're ahead of the game. Good for you. And they already started the coloring page yesterday. They're halfway through it today. If that's you, I've gone ahead and got the study guide ready. You have a study guide to do tomorrow anyway because we were supposed to have our test on Friday, but you know what you did earlier this week, which postponed our test until Monday. That's your own fault, but it's going to all be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be all okay. Okay, do you have your questions still?
Yes.
Okay.
So, you know if you multiply or divide by negative, just switch signs?
Yes.
Say you don't, but your variable ends up on the right side and your number ends up on the left. Then do you still, like you were saying, read it backwards and still flip the sign?
Yes, but so you were supposed to double flip, and you only single flip.
How you did 2, it says 2 greater than X.
Like if I had done this. No, let's do it differently. Let's say that.
Yeah.
Then I would have divided by -2, and I wouldn't have flipped the sign then. I would have said 4 divided by -2 is -2. -2 is less than X. So I did flip it once because of that negative. And now technically, I guess technically in your mind I'm flipping it again because I've got to rewrite it with that variable on the left so it would read X is greater than -2. But very rarely in life do we get to do the double flip. How do you know, Ms. Compton, that I'm going to get to do the double flip? Well, first issue, the variable's on the right. If the variable's not on the right, you're never going to get to do a double flip. And then second issue, are there a lot of negatives? Can you already anticipate, like we can anticipate on this one, I'm going to end up dividing by negative. So if you notice a lot of negatives and you notice the variable on the right, there's a slight chance it might be a double flip, but just like there's a slight chance Irma might go one way and she might go another, I can't guarantee it. Yes, dear?
If it's like 0, is it no solution?
If it's 0, isn't no solution. If there's something that doesn't fit it at all, and so that's another thing. Thank you for saying that. Your group can have a point now. There are some problems on there that make you think back over that option of no solution or all real numbers. So if you have, what's the problem say?
0 is greater or equal to 6x minus 6x.
Okay, what is 6x minus 6x? Is 0 greater than 0? Aren't they the same number?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what I plug in. I could plug in 1, and I would have 6 minus 6, which is 0. I can plug in 2, and I would have 12 minus 12, which is 0. It doesn't matter what I plug in. Any number is going to work. So on that one, you want to select all real numbers.
So it says it's equal to, so
Well,
that's what you know.
yeah. So that.
But if it was just.
So again, the ones on the test will be normal, just like the ones on the study guide are normal. I just wanted to make sure we had evaluated all the options, so that way you've seen all the different kinds of inequality problems you could face in life. Okay, and then there was something else I was going to say. Oh, I've seen. Well, we can go over that tomorrow. Okay. Are there any other questions about the coloring page? Were you over these 2 math workshops and I stopped talking?
Nope.
Okay. 1E from yesterday, we skipped it. We're going to skip it for a few more minutes. Let's do 2A. Hoping to get out of the hole, those who are negative. 2A. What's the name of this function? Yes, Craig. And your group can have a point. Linear. It's a line, so it's linear. Okay, 2B. Yes, table 2. It is quadratic. Y equals x squared is quadratic. Okay, 2C. Yes, dear. Square root, and your group can add a point. If you didn't already, Lloyd, that she gets a point for her answering the question. Allie does. Okay, and now we get to 2D. Yes, table 1. You haven't said anything today?
Absolute value.
It is absolute value. Okay, 2E is the hardest, but again, I told you in advance we were doing this problem today, so surely someone knows it. 2E.
No solution.
Oh my goodness.
Real numbers.
All irrational.
And table 3 gets the point. I know it as a rational function. Although my Algebra 2 with Trig textbook technically calls it a reciprocal function. I don't know when we updated its name and why we're so fancy now. When I was in school, we called it rational. Reciprocal works. Either way, it's the darn R word. It's the R word. And this one has a tricky graph. We're going to go over that now. Let's. Does anyone have, you can motion with your hands and everything. Does anyone know the graph of 1E?
What?
Yes, dear.
It's
And table 2 gets the point. Okay, so we skipped yesterday 1E. Let me unfreeze my screen. We skipped yesterday 1E because we decided it was going to be a pain, and it is. We said yesterday that most parent graphs go through 0, 0. This parent graph does not. Can someone explain why this graph does not go through 0, 0? What would be the problem with the fraction there?
It got an X at the bottom instead.
And so it would be 1 over 0, which is what? What's the word?
Oh, undefined?
You get your point. Okay, so we're not going to go through 0, 0 unlike all the other graphs because at 0, 0 we're technically undefined. When we plug in 0, that equation is undefined. So, but if we can plug in other numbers though. We can plug in 1 over 1 is 1. We can plug in 2. 1 divided by 2 is 1/2. Then we'd have a third and a fourth, a fifth. And we're getting closer and closer to that x-axis, but not actually touching it. There was a term you learned in your class last year about something that gets closer and closer, but doesn't actually touch. There's a term for that. You're approaching and then it started with an A. Yeah, and table 6. I heard table 6 whisper at first. You got to give it to them. Okay, so we have an asymptote on this side because we're getting closer and closer to that x-axis, but we're not actually touching. I did a terrible job because it looks like we touched, but that's just your eye deceiving you. We get closer and closer, but we don't actually touch that x-axis. Between 0 and 1, something really funny happens with this graph, and it's because of those fractions. If you plug in 1/2, you would have 1 divided by 1/2. Well, that ends up being 2. So on this side, like at 1/2, we actually go up 2. At 1/3, we actually go up 3. At 1/4, we actually go up 4. 1/5, we go up 5. So the same thing's happening on the other side of the graph. We're getting closer and closer to that y-axis, but we're not actually touching. So again, really all we're doing is we put the point at 1, 1. And then in this direction, it's getting closer and closer to the x without touching. In this direction, it's getting closer and closer to the y without touching. Now, what Allie knew that most people forgot is that this graph is not only the one line, but it also has negative values. So we plugged in -1, we would go to -1, -1. And the same thing happens on this side. We get closer and closer to that x. We get closer and closer to that y, but we never actually touch. Are there any questions about this? Now, I promise, as always, that I'm probably going to end up giving your group most of the points you deserve, but that depends on you being productive citizens today. So you need to either be finishing your pumpkin or working on your fish. If you need my help, of course, ask.